I believe I'm finally really putting together what has gone wrong with my brain and what I can do about it, which is cool. One of the biggest issues with having trouble with your brain is you can't think clearly to figure out how to fix the problem you're having with your brain. Because if you could think clearly, you wouldn't have a problem with your brain. So it's quite the little conundrum paradox there. And I believe, in a very simplified general version and leaving a bunch of things out, I got sick in Africa in December 2015, and I stayed sick for a long time, for months. I went through 2 normal antibiotic treatments, and that didn't really fix it. And I went through more of a like a holistic one with a bunch of herbs and stuff, and that took 3 months, and that really fixed all the infection stuff, all the bacteria issues. But I'm not sure on the exact dates, but I think that took like 6 months. So I had a ton of infection and inflammation issues and all this stuff, along with, I believe, my bone being out of alignment in my neck. So I was impinging my central nervous system here, and then I had a bunch of infection throughout my body and inflammation, including in my brain. And your body tries to fight different infections such as bacteria in various ways, one of them being inflammation, and part of that process, amyloid. Amyloid is built up in the brain, which, when it's chronic, starts to deteriorate your cognitive and mental abilities. And that's a lot of what causes Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and that's the best thing we can relate to all those. So I was having that type of issue, which I was having Parkinson's and Alzheimer's types of issues. I was forgetting vocabulary. I wasn't able to retain information or focus. My hands were shaky, and I was kind of stumbly and fumbly, and all those things developed over a decently long period of time. I guess not that long, months, years. We're almost to 2 years now. So I had that over those first 6 months, and all those issues are accumulating. But then I had almost a sedative effect from that bone or bones pressing on my brainstem, very high on my brainstem too. So it's affecting everything, and that's why Klippel-Feil syndrome is associated with organ failures of various types: hearts, lungs, livers, kidneys, because the signal, the central nervous system, isn't sending the proper signals to these different organs. They end up failing at some point, and that's what accounts for the shortened lifespan of most people that have Klippel-Feil syndrome. And that sedative effect causes issues in the brain too. So my brain, I mean, it had a lot of glucocorticoids and stuff like that are causing some amounts of brain damage and whatnot too, right? Ignore most of that for now because I'm trying for the simplified version so I can really understand it and do something about it. And that means the neurons aren't firing, right? When you're sedated, your neurons aren't firing as much. Well, if the neurons aren't firing, that means they're not getting the proper stimulus to build myelin sheaths, which are the sheaths that go around neurons to make that really strong connection. And those sheaths, just like everything in the universe, right? Entropy is breaking everything down. If they're not used, they break down because they're not being built up. So when you're learning things, you're building it faster than it's breaking down. And when you're forgetting things, it's breaking down faster than you're building it. And mine were breaking down quite a bit faster because of disease and inflammation and just the prolongation of time and the non-use of all my mental faculties because I was kind of in this sedated state because of the bone pressed on my brainstem. So all of that comes together in that I was developing plaque in my brain, amyloid, and then I was also having my myelin sheaths break down. So that causes a ton of mental issues, obviously. Which means that over the last few months, as I've been out of that state for a decent amount of time, I have a headache now. I have some cognitive impairments right now, so it's not like I'm out of it. But over the last couple of months, as I've made progress, I've started to be able, in my brain, I've been starting to work away that plaque and to develop more myelin sheaths. So it's slowly accumulating. It's not necessarily just a linear chain of skill progression, so my vocabulary will come back probably faster and faster as I'm able to integrate more and more. It's basically a relearning, rebuilding process. And I have to get my health more under control too, but the habits of having healthy skills is a skill in itself, so you need myelin sheaths to make the neural connections to do that, just like your beliefs and your skills and everything else you do and your habits. And so all of that, it was getting broken down, it was falling apart, and then my natural go-tos are not possible. The impact seems to be huge. Riding a car, walking, horrible. I basically need to be standing or sitting or laying. Not in a vehicle. It's kind of weird, but it's like the prescription for being homebound. That's for sure. Which, you know, is not my preferred choice before, but it's worth it to feel better and function better and be able to think clearer, or clearer. So my plan is essentially to keep progressing in this way. I want to focus on trying to move that amyloid out of the brain, so clear out the plaques and develop stronger myelin sheaths for skill development, including things like vocabulary and tracking plot structures and integrating conceptualized and abstracted ideas with concretions and right all the normal thinking type stuff that we have to do. It is somewhat of an opportunity because it means I get to rebuild part of my thinking process. It's somewhat of a pain in the butt, like if you built up a big stack of blocks and then a kid knocks it down, then you have to rebuild it, but you can build a cooler one if you want, so you can take a little positive or a little negative or whichever way you want. I'm up to, right now, I'm reading 4 novels. I'm reading 4 novels at the same time. I wrote an article on this just yesterday. So, Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, Harry Potter by Joe Rowling, 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Up the Window and Disappeared by Jonas Johnson, and the second book of the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. And then I'm reading 2 nonfiction books, which are in a different room. The Art of Fiction by Ayn Rand, and The End of Alzheimer's by Bredesden, something like that. Dale. And I'm tracking them all pretty well. Now, I used to be able to read about 10 books at the same time and track them all really well. I'm probably not tracking these 6 books as well as I used to be able to track 10 books, but it's getting fairly close, and I'm obviously making a decent amount of progress, and things are coming to me faster. My cognitive function has definitely increased its speed, which is part of what that efficiency process of wrapping myelin does. It increases the rate at which you can send impulses. So that is a very good signal that I'm making some progress. Now we'll see how that goes. I've got this experiment coming up with this 10-day meditation retreat for Vipassana on October 4th through the 15th, and I won't get adjustments during that time, but I shouldn't have too much impact either, and we'll kind of see how big of a difference all of that makes. So I've got a few different things that I'm working on, and I wrote my first article while naked writing, or live writing they call it, which is very cool. It's like a 2-hour video. I don't know if anyone will actually watch it, but it's cool. It's what I wish people would have done. It's what I wish Rowling and George R. R. Martin and C.S. Lewis would have done while they were writing, is they were able to record it, right? Just record it right on video. It was really started by Harlan Ellison a handful of decades ago. He was a science fiction writer, and he would write in the windows on his typewriter of bookstores, and he would even have people bring him ideas sometimes, write about this, and then he would write a story about that, and he would write one page, get done with it, and stick it up on the window and just construct a story page by page while you could watch them, which is so cool. So we can kind of see the process and how it works. So I think I might start doing more naked or live writing, and I called it Jeff Tries Naked Writing Episode 1. So I plan on having Episode 2, but I'm going to do less monologuing in the next one because I did a lot of talking in the first one and wrote like I can't remember what it was. It wasn't very long. It was like 1,000-word article in 2 hours, and it's pretty slow. So I didn't go back and edit it or review it and stuff like that. So it's just kind of slow. But it was fun. When it was interesting, it took a long time to render to turn it into a video that I could post because it records it in a weird format. Nevertheless. So I think I have a decent, simplified, rudimentary understanding version of what went wrong with my brain and why I would have been developing amyloid at one point and getting Alzheimer's and Parkinson's like reactions and breaking down myelin, which is what happens in MS. There's the 28-year-old woman that was a cellist in Europe somewhere, and when she was 28, she was world-class cellist. she forgot how to play, I believe over a series of a few weeks, and 8 months later they found out she had MS. So that breaking down of myelin has MS-like symptoms, and the building up plaque has Parkinson's and Alzheimer's-like symptoms. And that explains my symptoms very well and why I had both those things going on at the same time. So amyloid is the enemy and myelin is the friend. It's not quite that simple, but we need simplified versions of things so that we can comprehend it and definitely use it. And it seems to be that that is working, and I'm making some progress. So I just have to keep making sure I get the adjustments and keep that spine at least out of the brainstem as much as possible, which just slips over there pretty easy. I'm down to 2 adjustments a week. Really lower the impact, really helps with that. I need to get in better shape. I've been rough and I can't fall back on simple stuff like walking because I can't have the impact. So I'm thinking like calisthenic static holds might be my best bet for something like that, because I don't really want to do a bunch of tension stuff either, because that could, especially on one side, if you're doing handheld tension stuff like lifting weights, that could pull my neck out of alignment too. So I'm thinking calisthenic static holds, and just slowly build up, and just in the same way that I'm building up my brain, build the rest of my body back up, and that will be the best environment for my mind to function, essentially. So I'm pretty excited about it, that I'm making progress and really starting to understand what went wrong, what I'm doing that seems to be helping, and more of what I can do in the future to make more progress. So good news, which, there's been a lot of ups and downs over these last 2 years. I mean, in life in general, right? There's ups and downs, and it's been mostly down over the last 2 years. I've had a bunch of exciting stuff about potentially going on this big adventure overseas, and potentially going to France, potentially going to China, potentially going to the Netherlands, all opportunities I had to turn down. I went to the computer school in California, very exciting, got accepted out there, but then I had to turn down going back out there, and I had the opportunity to do my bachelor's degree through the University of London, but bankrupt. I'm still working on figuring out how to do the medical bill thing, and I did one class in that, but then I did turn down doing the rest of that, essentially. But that'll all be worth it. And that'll all be worth it if I can get my brain functioning correctly, like it's doing pretty well right now, and keep making progress and pursue some interesting things, which I have some interesting things in the works. I think a teaching program for English as a second language, specifically geared at China, and developing it as a video course rather than one-on-one teaching in a pretty extensive way, may be very interesting. And then writing, obviously, the writing is so interesting. I really want to develop the skill there, and my myelin's all broken down, which hinders a little bit, but I have to build myelin back up anyway, so might as well work on building up the myelin in the skill of developing plots and themes and characterization and stylization and all of the skills necessary for writing. So it'll probably take a while, but I think it's definitely a worthwhile pursuit because it'll be extremely interesting. And then also, if I can keep my spine in better alignment, so I'm not having damage inflicted in the central nervous system, specifically the spinal cord, it should mean that damage, or at least less damage, but maybe no damage, is being done to the organs, which should extend my expected life expectancy from one of the major organ failures. So that would be good news as well. Of course, there's no real way to test that. It's hard to do tests on humans because we're one case, we're not a class, so it's hard to compare it against anything else, especially in odd cases. But basically all good news. So I'm excited, and I'm working on tearing down plaque, building up myelin, developing skills, and working some of these opportunities. And I'm kind of confined to the house. So my opportunities I can pursue and develop are opportunities that I can pursue and develop from my bedroom, which are the only opportunities that I can pursue and develop. so it works. And I was very disappointed that for quite a while, for a long time, but it's worth it if I can make progress like this. So I'm definitely willing to give up the other things. And now I'm becoming more focused on the excitement of what I can pursue, which I'm happy with.